everyone, and welcome to the Love is Stupid podcast, Bachelor Breakdown. I'm your host, Ray Solomon, here with my husband and co-host, Jake Green.
Hi, everyone.
And our resident Nashville single guy bachelor, Dustin Summers.
Hello.
Yes.
We've made it.
We did
it.
We made it, bud.
Ooh, big sigh of relief.
Oh,
We made
this
it,
was a
bud.
long season. Okay, so normally when we do the Bachelor Breakdown, we give a full recap of the show and then we go back and we add our thoughts in. But there is just too much going on with this episode to do that.
Oh
so
my gosh.
We're going to take it one thing at a time. We're not going to jump ahead.
Why
Jake?
Why
We're not
am
gonna
I
do
getting the daggers?
Because you suck at following an outline.
I don't know. That's
That's
good.
so true. But before we do that, I want to say that make sure you check out the Love is Stupid podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. Last week we had an episode about religion and politics, and tomorrow we have an episode coming out that is about the hot mama and dating with kids or dating someone with kids. So it's a pretty interesting conversation from our perspectives and experiences around that. So make sure you check that out. But let's dive into this finale because goodness, it was a lot. So
Before we start, is there a what's the profanity policy on these recaps?
Minimal?
PG-13?
Yeah, if you
PG-13.
could.
Sure.
Good luck.
Good to know.
well,
Just
I'll start out with the first profanity of it because my little
Uh-oh.
segment that we always do in this Bachelor Breakdown is the oh shit moment. And I feel like this entire episode encompasses that for me. I'm going to try and narrow it down as we get through it, but the whole thing made me so uncomfortable to watch.
I was never comfortable at all.
Yeah.
And
It was awkward.
I was just uncomfortable because we didn't know where Jack was. Jack Weber. He might just be out sipping white wine.
Jack?
He's out sipping white wine in LA.
He's just hanging out.
Doing line dancing, maybe?
Oh my gosh.
I missed Jack.
Yeah, at the club.
At the club, yeah.
All right, so the episode opens up, obviously, with Chris Harrison saying this is the most dramatic ending of a Bachelor season ever, which turns out he was actually right and wasn't just being dramatic, which is shocking. But Neil Lane shows up and Peter is saying that he's choosing Hannah Ann. He calls her dad on FaceTime to ask permission before he proposes, picks out his ring, and we're getting ready to have this proposal, which is the way that The Bachelor always ends, and he chooses Hannah Ann.
Well, and they set this up like all season finales where Peter said, I've found true love with Hannah Ann. And so we're like, oh, this is fantastic. There's no way he's going to propose to her and then back out.
Well,
Right. And I mean, you say this is the ending that all these seasons have. Since this is my first one doing this, like I have no idea what to expect. And so I didn't know if all this was,
This is normal.
wow.
well,
And shout out Rick Sluice.
first like
You're,
2 minutes.
you're my unheralded all-star for this entire series.
We never did get him
Never
on
did
the
get
show.
him here.
Oh,
unfortunate.
man. Yeah, well, I think he was wanting to take his axe not to a tree after the end of
Quit
this
jumping ahead.
episode. Anyways, sorry. So anyways, then Chris comes out and they've been previewing this the whole time that, oh, there's something that not even Chris knew and what is going to happen here. So he says that Hannah might not come, that she's having second thoughts about whether she's going to show up for this proposal.
Yeah. Peter almost had a heart attack.
He did. He
In the desert.
He did not look well. He went to a little
No.
hut off the Australian outback and had to have a cold compress on his
The
head.
producers had to fan him a little bit.
Yeah. But I mean, she was getting cold feet. Happens.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I will have more thoughts on this later that we'll circle back around, but my thoughts are that she was, at the time, was being a little dramatic. So you're going to say that you're not going to show up and then you're going to show up. Like, where
Sure.
what's your...
I mean, I kind of get it,
Angle
though,
here.
because Peter divulged in last night's episode that his heart was still torn between two women. And Hannah Ann had no idea that Madison went home.
Nope.
Right. So she does end up showing up to the proposal.
Looked
and
great. I thought she looked great.
oh my God, her dress, so cute.
Yeah.
Love that dress. All about it. And Peter ends up telling her during the proposal that Madison went home 2 days before, but didn't really tell her the whole story of why. The way he said it made it seem like he sent her home a couple days before, which was actually not the case.
But this brings us, because we do a Love is Stupid podcast. It's not about The Bachelor. It's about dating life, the do's and don'ts, and things like that. I now have rule number 1 of the Love is Stupid podcast.
Which is?
Don't mention another woman's name when you're proposing.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right?
I feel like
I totally agree.
the fact that we have to say that and make that a rule is kind of pathetic, but yeah.
When it happened in real time, I thought that he accidentally called her the wrong name.
Hannah.
Yeah,
I
thought
thought he called Hannah.
He was staring at her very intently, and he said, Madison went home.
There was a dramatic pause.
Uh-huh.
I really thought he screwed it up.
Yeah, I did too.
I just feel like that was not the appropriate time to tell her. And we had talked in last night's recap that we were maybe a little split or undecided on when the best time to tell her was. That was absolutely not it.
Yeah.
Just saying.
And I'm not jumping ahead, but Hannah Ann does let him know that later. So Hannah Ann felt the same way.
Correct.
Yeah. So
And you are jumping ahead.
you are jumping ahead. Sorry. I'm not jumping ahead, but ignore everything I just said. So you think that maybe everything's ending okay? I mean, Hannah shows up and Peter proposes. Everything seems fine. He gets the approval from Mr. X-Luce and everything's good. And then, of course...
Except it's 7:25.
There's an hour and a half left of the show.
So then our star of the show is making her first appearance, where Miss Barbara was quite dramatic in crying when Peter tells her that it actually is Hannah Ann that he has proposed to. That seemed like the type of cry where someone has died.
Yeah,
it was
totally
so
agree.
dramatic.
There needs to be a word for more dramatic. There needs to be a Barb word.
Barb Weber.
Because that was intense. She's over the top.
Barb.
I hate the Weber.
Entirely? What about Jack?
Jack needs to get out of that family.
Yeah.
Jack needs to get out.
Maybe he's adopted.
Oh my gosh. He looks just like them. He really does. So, anyways, you think everything's good. And then you find out that it's actually...
But what's so weird at this point is, like, the timeline seemed weird because they both seemed over the moon and happy. They both seemed content on their choices. And then he was doing the FaceTime thing with his parents and showing, Hannah Ann to them. And then all of a sudden, when they have their first interaction in person, they both seemed like they were miserable.
There was tension.
Well, they did not give any sort of context to what was happening.
There was no
It went from them being really happy to all of a sudden she's showing up and you're not sure if they're still good or not. And at this point in the show, they had previewed that maybe Madison came back but had yet to address it. So there was absolutely no context to the first time that they were then together afterwards, where you can totally sense that there's something weird.
Oh, yeah.
But nothing has quite happened yet. And it was really awkward. And come to find out it's awkward because Peter was breaking up with Hannah Ann.
Right. And Hannah Ann took it in stride. Hannah Ann's response and breakup, that transcript should be repeated by anybody that's in that situation. Yeah. She nailed it.
I have to give her so much props, for sure.
Very much so. I was going to say, she didn't take it in stride. She was a champ. She crushed that breakup.
That was awesome.
Any girl, if you're ever being broken up with, can you just play that back to give yourself a little bit of confidence to lay the hammer down? Because she was a boss. And I loved her
Any guy being broken up with, if you to repeat her same sentiment, that's awesome.
Yeah, I love that she had enough respect for herself to be able to take a step back and have the self-awareness of what was happening in the situation and to be able to stand up for herself and think that she deserved better. There was no like, oh, please stay with me, grovel. She put him in his place.
I was really proud of her. That was a good moment.
Way to go, Hannah.
And it was such a good breakup that even Peter's mom was applauding.
Oh my God.
Good point.
My first nominee for the oh shit moment.
Now, I don't know that we mentioned this, but they always do the live show. And so this was live. And Barb, Pete's mom, was in the crowd. they had a camera dedicated to Barb,
So
and
there's a little
she's sitting
cutout,
there.
a little square where you could see Mama Barb's face in the corner as all of this is playing out.
Every single
Yeah.
thing that Hannah Ann did or said, even if it was cutting him down
Right.
with a knife,
Her own kid.
she's applauding.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have a lot of thoughts on Barb. So
I am too.
So wait until the whole end before you DM me or disagree. But I will say that in that moment, I actually really appreciated Barb's reaction because
did
I think
too.
that some parents can side with their kid no matter what and think that they do no wrong.
Yeah.
He was in the wrong in that moment, and she
Recognized
was,
it.
yeah, giving Hannah the credit that she deserved. I liked it. Do you disagree with me?
Oh, we're going to get to it.
We're gonna get-
we're
yeah.
going to get to our disagreement about Barb.
The Love
It's
Is Stupid podcast does not all agree on our Barb sentiment all the
Nope,
way through.
that's true.
But I do think that was a good thing.
I think Jake almost took the center seat on this recap tonight since Ray and I are so diametrically opposed.
Yeah, right.
Our
I'm the
Barb-
mediator.
Oh, don't worry,
I should
we'll
be
get
sitting
there.
in the middle.
I think we agree more than you think.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, but all right. So this breakup happens, and I just have to say, Hannah telling him, I don't need anything else from you. I'm good. Way to go,
Right.
girl.
You know what
Way
was
to
funny?
go.
She said something, and she's like, "I just wish you would just say what you're actually feeling," or something along those lines. And she paused to give him a chance to respond. He said nothing, and she goes, "I've heard all I need
Exactly.
to hear."
It's a gangster move.
Brutally honest.
And when she called him out about
Tennessee girl.
What
She's
did
a
she
Tennessee girl.
There you
say
go.
about him being like, wishy-washy, uncommitted, undecided Peter, who's always conflicted?
Right.
I was like, whew.
That was this season, was it?
It really
not?
was.
She
It
came
really
right
was.
in.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. So after this breakup, it goes back to the live studio audience, and they ask Peter if he's ready to face Hannah Ann because she is actually there backstage. They bring her out. And
I'm
oh
sweating at
my
this point. I'm
gosh,
like,
yeah.
this is not going to go well.
Yeah, I mean, if I thought that she put him in his place in LA when they first broke up,
You would be
she
wrong.
really put him in his place in front of that whole audience.
I mean, she handled it well. She looked great. She was confident. She sat beside him. She said what she needed to say.
She did.
And she
Good
came
for her.
across great. Peter came across like a Peter.
Like a Peter.
yeah, he
Is that
really
like
did.
a dick?
There
Is
you
that
go.
what you mean?
He's
Nice.
lob that one up there.
Yeah,
For you.
I like that.
It took him a minute to fully own up to just being like, my bad, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He should have done that from the beginning. I'm sorry, I screwed up, but he kept trying to backtrack and things like that. He wasn't the only one to do that.
Oh, but it gets worse.
Yeah. This might be the most
Oh, boy.
tense, serious Bachelor breakdown that we've done so far. I'm still uncomfortable from watching the show.
Yeah.
So then it flashes once we're done with the Hannah Ann public breakup number 2 of
Right.
really giving it to Peter, to Chris Harrison going to Auburn to talk to Madison, which was
unprovoked. Peter didn't ask him to go, didn't know he was going. That was weird.
I'm not sure how I feel about this because there's been things like this in past seasons where old contestants have regretted their decision and come back,
That's
or
true.
the Bachelorette regrets and goes back after an old contestant. But to have Chris Harrison step in that way and pull it together for them seemed very odd to me.
It seems odd if you take a step back, but if you think about Peter's dynamic with all these women, the fact that Chris Harrison went to Auburn to speak on behalf of Peter.
Yeah.
Chris knew Peter couldn't speak on behalf of himself, so he went there and said, Madison, he's in love with you still. He's no longer engaged. He was engaged to Hannah Ann. He's no longer engaged, and he loves you. I don't know that Peter could have said that.
So I have one more point on this
Eloquently.
that I totally forgot to even mention. When Hannah Ann was on stage with him, she called him out for apparently needing to call Hannah B to get closure there. Are you kidding me? So this guy has no idea what the hell he's
I
doing.
really
He
hope
is
that
so
we
all
would
over the
never
place.
say that woman's name again. There you go. You ruined it.
All right. So anyways, jumping back to Chris.
Chris,
Good.
well,
To
I
see
mean,
Madison.
Chris Harrison is Peter's paternal figure, and Barb is his maternal figure, who has to do all of his bidding and all his decision making and all of his bouncing emotions and decisions off of one another. So there you go.
Good observation.
So,
very much so.
I mean, even then when she's talking to Chris, when Maddie is talking to Chris in Alabama, he asks her if she regrets her decision. She says yes. And then he asks her if she's still in love with him, and she still can't even say it. Like, do you actually care about this person? Even when you're sitting there regretting this decision, apparently you still can't say that you love him.
Yeah.
And she said, I think she said she cared about him or she loved him, but she didn't know how it was going to go. And Chris said, well, what happens next? And she said, I guess we're going to L.A.
Going to L.A.
It was right around this time, there was a commercial. And I think it's a good time to address one of the things that was going on in the audience was Kelly was there. Which was kind of a red herring. Kelly hadn't been part of like the Women Tell All thing. Kelly had been kind of, a little bit above the show, a little above. And I think this is at the point where I told you, I was like, look, if I was the Bachelor, if it was my show, if I had this group of women, Kelly would probably be the one that I would pick.
So at this point, you thought Kelly might have been involved.
No.
Okay.
I didn't think Peter had any.
I would have not put it past him to just have something crazy happen or have him be with Hannah B or Kelly or whoever. Who knows? This guy doesn't even know what he wants.
So how would we?
But what I'm saying is I was like, Kelly would probably be who I picked. Then Madison showed up in L.A. at the pool thing. I was like, you know what? It's probably
Madison.
I would have probably picked Madison.
Yeah, she's a beautiful woman. Let's be honest.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
There you go. I'd pick Kelly. Crossed it out. Madison.
Oh my gosh, you actually have that written down. That's crazy.
So she shows up in LA to talk to Peter. They kind of
Peter was genuinely surprised though that she shows up and walks out.
It was supposed to be Chris.
Yeah, and we're sitting there wondering if he knew or if this actually was a surprise.
I don't think
it was supposed to be Chris that was showing up, and it was Maddie. And it was so awkward. Their whole conversation was like them touching foreheads and very inarticulate, very not really any sort of decision.
You're acting surprised about that after watching 10 episodes of Pete trying to talk to women.
Right.
Yeah.
Pete can't talk to women.
This was true to form.
Madison's still reserved. She's on the fence.
Yeah, very much so. So they kind of cut away and they come back to the live show.
Well, and even I think Peter asked Madison, well, what do we do now? And neither one of them even answered the question in the moment. They're like,
they didn't know.
We don't have words.
Yeah.
Who would have known that Victoria wasn't the least articulate person on the show? Anyways.
That's brutal.
Let's fast forward. I know, it's true though. To now, the whole stars of the show, which I think gets all of our segments for the evening, and it is the cat fight between Barb and Maddie. And we have a lot of thoughts, so we're going to try and get through all of them articulately.
We'll try.
But Chris actually brings Madison out and asks them how they're feeling about each other, what's going on. They both say, well, we care about each other, but not that they're together. They haven't seen each other since they had talked in LA. So it's still this sort of we don't really know what's going on.
We don't. I think they were trying to get away from the fact there wasn't going to be a proposal. They were just we're going to move forward in the relationship. We're going to start figuring things out. We're going to date. We're going to move past this reality show.
But you know what I appreciate, if there's anything I appreciate about this whole episode, it's that Peter did say that. We're going to take it a step at a time and see where it goes.
I would appreciate that if he was saying, look, we're dating, we're together, we're going to take it a step at a time. But for them to still be this wishy-washy, we don't know anything.
But I
wasn't expecting a proposal.
He had a devil on his shoulder, over his left shoulder, which is his mom.
Okay, yeah.
Staring daggers at Madison.
Let's get to Barb.
Okay, so
here we go.
Yeah. Do we want to start with Barb or Maddie? How do we?
Barb's the one that drew first blood.
Well, I think the entire time, we've had Barb on camera with all her reactions to all the things that were going on, and
she was very transparent.
Exactly, and so even when they were discussing Madison before she came out on stage, we knew how Barb felt about it.
Very different reaction than Hannah. Whenever Hannah was being discussed or was out there, she was clapping, smiling, rooting her on, and as soon as Madison's name even came up, it was eye rolls and I can't, and couldn't even look at Peter
And
at
so,
the end of it.
and so, like during Madison's first, this is my IRL moment of the night that Barbara
Okay.
stole from me, because like during Madison's first statement when she came out on stage, she says something about caring for her son or whatever, and Barb rolls her eyes at like something that she's saying on stage. Which
So Barb stole your eye roll
Barb
moment?
stole my eye roll, the finale.
Rude.
She stole my last eye roll moment of the night.
I'm
She
sorry.
was just agreeing with you.
No, I was not. No, she was not. Barb sucks. Let's get to how much we don't like Barb.
Okay,
we don't
yeah.
like Barb. I don't.
So Chris Harrison finally, after again this very inarticulate on stage moment of Madison and Peter talking to each other, and we still don't even know what's going on, finally gives Barb the floor and asks her what she thinks, and she proceeds to say that there's a lot of things that Bachelor Nation didn't get to see, that they had to wait 3 hours, that Maddie didn't apologize after they had to wait that long.
Or even want to see the family. Oh,
that she didn't want to meet them, that when she asked if Maddie was in love with Peter, she said no, and that she wasn't ready to be with him, wouldn't accept a proposal.
Now, normally you'd say she threw Madison under the bus, but I think we realize now Barb was the bus driver. She ran her over.
But she did. But Madison acquitted herself pretty well. Like, she used some cliches. She used some cliches. She kind of that. But Madison. But look, she was being attacked by her potential future possible in-laws.
True.
And I mean, she could have just capitulated and said and groveled, and maybe she should have apologized. She probably should have apologized. But at the same time, she was being attacked by this. She's seen backstage, or she has knowledge of the fact that Peter's mother adores the angel on earth. I think is how she described Hannah Ann. And so going into it, I don't blame her for being a little, defensive and things like that.
I understand.
And so, I know you have some thoughts on what she said.
I have just a different perspective, because I do agree that she was absolutely being attacked. That is not an easy place to be in. At the end of the day, that is possibly her future mother-in-law. And Barb is completely out of line in the level in which that she is inserting herself in Peter's life. Like, whether you disagree with your son or not, you speak your piece. You say, I disagree with you. I don't think that this is the right choice, but it's your life. Here's my opinion. Take it or leave it. I'll support you in whatever your decision was. And Barb wasn't. Let me finish really quick before you go. But Madison was not helping herself out during this entire time. Like, look, she broke up with her son, and so if you're going to go back and be with him, regardless of if Barb was so aggressive, she was gonna have to like face the music a little bit and say, you know what, I'm really sorry. I was confused. It was both of our journey. I didn't mean to make you wait 3 hours. That was not my intent. I do love your son. So she couldn't even look at Barb.
This is where I agree with you. And here's my segment, the overplaying your hand moment, right? Because I completely agree with what you're saying. Yes, Madison's getting attacked. She's center stage. Millions of people are watching her. That's got to be uncomfortable. And then you've just got to have this like anger building up inside of you. She overplayed well, I'm with Peter and you just need to accept this kind of card. And she should have just turned to Barb, at least looked at her. She never even looked at her in the first place and said, look, I'm sorry. That wasn't my intent. I had consternation. I needed to talk to Peter. And yeah, it took a little while for us to kind of work through it before I walked in to meet the family. And there was still a little tension there when we did. I didn't mean that, and I'm sorry.
I don't think she needed to grovel by any means. Like, no. And I don't think that Barb was going to let her slide, even if she did apologize. But she could have done herself some favors. And I also expected more from her, because Maddie, it was the one who was all about her faith, was all about her family and being Southern and waiting till you're married, all these things. And then for her to disrespect his parents that way and not even be able to look them in the eye, even if she's being disrespected, they're still his parents.
Well, I think that Barb, though, was so defensive from the initial interaction with Madison, because it's the whole thing about the waiting to marriage, trying to put restrictions on Peter, I guess. Barb got so ticked about that and thought that, and I think Barb though took it as an indictment on Peter's upbringing his parents.
Maybe. Ooh, that's a good point.
And so
Valid point.
And the fact that she looks like Madison, she's a threat. And I think that the reason, my other point is the reason that she gravitated so much to Hannah Ann was that Barb could see Hannah Ann fitting into the family.
Sure.
Whereas she could see Madison being a divider or a splitter to take Peter out of the family. And so she was just possessive and defensive about that.
So here's me being the mediator of this whole dynamic where you guys are kind of juxtaposed a little bit. I think they both were just in the position that they took, but they were wrong in how they approached the situation. They could have been the bigger man kind of scenario and said, look, I'm going to allow you to kind of be a part of this family. I'll give you a shot. And Madison could have said, I'm sorry, I'm going to try harder. That kind of thing.
And I'm glad you brought that up because what did Chris Harrison do?
He tried. He
asked Peter. And what did Peter do? Dad, what do you think about this? What a chump.
No. Chris asked the dad what he thought.
He did not. He did not. Go back and watch the tape.
I will watch it again. Either way, they finally asked the dad, but also Dad was not going to say anything that was against Miss Barb because Miss Barb was going to lay the hammer down on that one. I will say, I think that the oh shit moment of the night was when Barb said he's got to fail to succeed because we all think this isn't going to work. I was like,
that was bad.
Oh, it hurts so.
That hurt.
It made an uncomfortable situation even more uncomfortable.
I mean, she shouldn't have done that. Again, she should speak her piece to him privately and then support whatever his decision is. But I will say that Maddie not apologizing, these two women, there's no way this is working out. So I do have to agree with Barb in that because there is absolutely no way that these families are going to be able to patch this up.
No way.
No, they're not. But at the same time, it's not going to be Madison's fault that this ends. I'll blame it on Peter and his family. And I'll say this in closing with Barb. My last point about Barb. Madison can't offer you a whole lot, but I can promise you I can offer you a lot cooler mother-in-law than Barb. So.
There's a ring on the end of this pen. Do you want to just make a proposal?
It's a rock, though.
That it is.
It's not small.
Oh my gosh, you guys, this was a lot. So at the end of the day, we don't really know what happens to Peter and Madison. Honestly, I would be happy if I never heard about it ever again. I'm so happy
to a horseshit show.
I'm glad it's done.
I must say though, I am really excited for first of all Bachelor in Paradise, but for Claire because I'm happy that The Bachelor is finally getting an older bachelorette, because I think that so many of these issues that are coming from some of these seasons are the fact that they're picking really young contestants that maybe don't know what they want yet and haven't been through enough life. Plus, they've been around for a lot of seasons, so they need to grow with their audience. I think that, hopefully Claire's going to be a good choice.
Look, I applaud the Bachelor producers, directors for choosing Claire. I don't know that Claire's the one I would have picked, but I do appreciate that they're picking a 38-year-old woman, which means there's going to be more maturity during the season. This is only the third time they've picked a woman that's over 30.
Yeah.
So good for them. I think the first two were like 30 and 32, so it's not like they, really stretched the bar, but this time they did, and I'm really looking forward to that season.
Yeah, for sure.
Hopefully she hasn't dated Chase Rice.
Who hasn't? Jeez. All right, guys. Thank you so much for sticking around with us through this season of Bachelor Breakdowns. We will be back for Bachelor in Paradise.
Two of us will.
We will be back for Bachelor in Paradise. He'll be with us. He really will. And make sure that you check out the Love is Stupid podcast. We have a bonus episode coming to you. If you've enjoyed these, we are going to be doing a podcast episode about what we learned throughout this season of what not to do from Peter of dates. So make sure.
I don't have enough paper.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. So wherever you listen to your podcast, you can go to the Love is Stupid podcast, or you can go to my website, which is raysolomonmusic.com/the Love is Stupid podcast, and we link everything there. And you'll get not only the Hot Mama episode tomorrow, where we talk about dating people with kids or dating with kids, but you will get our bonus episode of the whole season recap of what not to do based on what we learned from Pilot Pete, which is a lot of content. Lots of things. And we'll see you in a few weeks when Bachelor in Paradise starts for our next round of Bachelor Breakdowns. Eye roll moment of the night. We love you guys. Bye.
You made it. I'm proud of you.
So proud of you.
Oh.
Thank you.
That was a struggle.
Was it?
You lost a few hairs, a
From
few
this?
more gray hairs, but
Thanks,
we did it.
Jake.
I'm proud of you.
Turn this down.
On to the next